Hello, Global Theater. My name is Jerry Fielka. Today is October 10, 2023. We want to thank Rob Grant and his amazing podcast. I'm probably wrong about everything. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here with Enid Langbert. Thank you so much, Enid. Where are you calling in from?
Manhattan.
I also want to thank Finnegan's Wake Group in New York City for introducing us. And what an amazing group you're in. I learned so much. Eden, the first question is, what is the best thing for a human being?
I love this question for two reasons. The first reason is the best thing I think now for a human being is to be completely pain and discomfort free.
Yes.
And I, I love the question because it, I don't know what happened to my voice. It was all right before. Um, it's like a telescope, and I think, how would I have answered that in the past? Is there a time I would have said chocolate?
Yes. Wait, dark or milk?
Oh, dark.
Oh, yes.
There's certainly a time I would have said passion, but it's not that those things are not there too, but it's feeling my life
Yeah.
moving uninhibitedly and unhampered through my body. The toe that I smashed last week not hurting anymore.
Yeah. Is that the second thing you said, passion, Passion?
That's it.
That is beautiful. Wow. I could comfort free, dark chocolate, and passion. I'm
Pretty,
there. That is beautiful.
pretty good, huh?
What pretty good. That's really good. Okay, 'cause first of all, you get it. This is we're here to have fun, but what's your favorite form of information? How it comes into you?
Well, reading,
Yeah,
listening, but I listen to books and information a lot, and and I watch TV.
yeah. And let's go to reading for a second. Did you grow up and become a reader mainly because one, your parents read as an example, two, they told you to, or three, on your own?
No, no, they read all the time. It just was part of my life. I assumed that that's what people did because that's what they did.
Yeah. Why do you think humans collect or gather information?
Because they're nosy.
Wait, you'll love this one. Is this true? I heard that if you gossip or you complain, you live longer.
I certainly hope so.
I do too.
I certainly hope so. But that's what Yuval Harari, the
Yeah,
art anthropologist. That's what he says. That I mean, among everything that he says, he's pretty wonderful. But he says that people started talking to gossip. That
yeah,
was the first thing.
yeah. Well, is this need or want to collect information more innate or more invented?
It's probably cyclical. I think it's probably cyclical. I think it began um, because we were small and slow and weak, and we wouldn't have survived against all of those other bigger, faster creatures if we
Yeah,
didn't have something else going for us.
yeah,
So I think it starts that way, and then then it's just habitual, you know.
yeah.
That brain just once it figures out how to do it, just keeps going and going and going.
Yeah, I like that word cyclical because it's sort of like I used to ask, is human progress cyclical or cumulative? And it's sort of like a cone and it spins around and sometimes it spins up and sometimes it spins down, but it's sort of like cyclical movement.
That's exactly right. I always feel like either you're going like this or you're going like this.
Yeah,
You choose.
yeah. Fill in the blank. I don't know what I think until I,
Say it. Say it.
yeah. Well, that's what McLuhan says. I don't know what I think until I say it. Joan Didion says, I don't know what I think until I write it.
Well, if I could write like her, I would. She
You know,
she's one of my heroes. I mean, she can create sentences.
yeah. Well, Chomsky says a language is not just words. It's a culture, a tradition, a unification of community, a whole history that creates what a community is. What do you do when language doesn't work? When language breaks down, what do you do?
That's so interesting that you say that, because that's that could be my worst nightmare. You know, I mean, my earliest memory, my earliest memory as a child was getting a present that was better than I expected, and I didn't know the word expect. I didn't know how to say that to my parents. And I said, I didn't want this. And they said, you didn't want it. And
Wow.
because, I mean, they laughed because they knew I did want it, but I can remember that was quite a while ago, but that was like my first memory of not having the right word. So that's like my byword, you know.
Yeah.
I need, but you know, like I need the right words.
But I mean, you're on a court dealing and language breaks down. What do you do?
Well, one of the things that I loved about the law, there's a lot of things I didn't, mostly lawyers, but what I loved about the law was the movement toward an exact language. I also have been involved with the teachings of Gurdjieff, and he talks about exact language. And in law, words are important. It's important how you use a word and the implications of it. Gurdjieff says that too. So that's very important to me.
That's beautiful. Exact language. Well, that's interesting. Your observations of humans in general, are we more feeling beings or more thinking beings?
Well, I'd like to say I'm thinking, but most of them out there are feeling. But I think it's feeling, because it's very hard to really separate your mind and your body and your emotions, and it's an effort that most people or many people don't bother trying.
Right, because we invented the words feeling and thinking. We think we can separate them, but they're probably so integrated it's hard to really separate and go one is more. But 80% of people do say we're more feeling beings. But I like what Bridget Bardot says, when I make love, I don't think. And it's like, well, how do you shut your brain off? Even like people who meditate, they go, okay, think about not thinking. You know,
I dare you.
right.
No, it's very hard. It's very hard. I mean, that's a lot what the teachings of Gurdjieff is about. I think most spiritual disciplines are about that in one way or another. Trying to get beyond the monkey mind, you know, the the thing up here that goes on all the time. Blah 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 blah.
Yeah, the monkey mind. That's well, here's two questions from Alan Turing in the 50s. Is thinking a function of the soul?
Ooh, I think that's above my pay grade.
That's good. The second Turing is, can machines think?
Well, eventually, I
Yeah,
think isn't that what we're doing? I mean, he was like decades and decades ahead of anyone else. But
right.
that becomes a real question now with with AI. You know, I actually used AI. I was so surprised. I assumed I never would, but I tried something and it was remarkable. It helped me so much. It was so good in answering the question I almost was sorry I'd done it, you know, because
Wow. You mean you use chatbot?
Yeah, I use chat box.
Wow. I'm glad to hear that. Um, I haven't had the courage to do that yet, and I should have a long time ago. Do you more pursue happiness or more pursue meaning?
I don't think I separate them.
Yeah.
I don't think I separate them. I don't, I tend not to do things that look, like going bowling or something.
Mm.
Although I play word games. I don't know, but yeah, but I try not to separate them.
Yeah. Well, does the brain more detect consciousness or create it? Like, is consciousness there bubbling away and we're more so detecting it or more so creating it?
Both.
Yeah. What's faster, speed of light or speed of thought?
probably, probably light because I think that this our speed of thought is we don't we misinterpret it. We don't really see the speed of thought. We think it's a lot faster than it is.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the things that Gurdjieff talks about is that when when we receive impressions through our senses, which is how we receive everything through our senses, there's a delay, and and like pure consciousness would be immediate without the senses, would be a perception without the senses.
Wow. I'm learning a lot about Gurdjieff. I bring him up. Yeah, actually, you're anticipating a lot of our subjects, so this is good. Audre Lorde, the poet, said you can't dismantle the master's house using the master's tools. Yvonne Rainer responded to her and said, you can if you expose the tools. What new tool do you suggest?
I can't believe this because I was just talking about that in my book club last night. We read The Stranger by Camus,
Yeah,
and so he, of course, and so someone brought that up, the idea, because it's very akin to what he would have said about dismantling the master's house and the master-slave relationship.
yeah,
That's so interesting. I mean, I just can't believe that Audre Lorde came up 2 days in a row.
yeah. Well, it is a line that goes around. And again, her being a poet, she could be talking metaphorically. When I ask this question, people okay, sometimes take it literally. You mean tearing down the master's house? And I always go to Frank Zappa, who just asked the question, "Who are the brain police?" He didn't say the brain police are evil corporate capitalists or the brain police is the voice inside your head. He just said who they are. So it's so you can take it so many ways. Like I said, you put the questions into the context you want. So, really what I'm asking is what tool do you gravitate towards? And if you want to add the word new, that's fine. And if you want to apply it to the Audre Lorde quote, that's fine too.
Well, I would see the law if I don't just repeat what I was thinking about last night about existentialism, but you can't tear down the master's house with the master's tools. Is really you can't look at your consciousness with your consciousness,
Yeah,
and in order to really see who you are, to see yourself and to see who you are and what you're really doing, you can't do it through yourself. You have to somehow have an input as if another person is looking at you, but it's not another person.
that's exactly how I explain Finnegan's Wake. I say it's as though you're reading a book and then your second self pulls away and watches you read a book and then it's saying well, this is what reading does to you.
Oh, that's wonderful.
It's like this second self is going, whoa, well, that because we don't when we read we don't think about what reading is doing to us. We just get into the content. We're not aware of the form.
Right, right. I mean, I think that's when I think of it this way because I've been, working on a thesis and reading all these very learned things. But, when they talk about postmodernism and intertextuality, and that's really what that is. It's like the text itself talks about the text.
Yep, that is so well put. What new toy do you suggest?
Well, I just love all of my electronics. I just upgraded my iPhone and I have and it's so much smarter than I have to it has all of these amazing camera faculties. I have lovely camera I never carry anymore because the iPhone takes such great pictures and I have my iWatch and my I just love all these things. I
Good.
I love my electronics. And when my son got his first computer, way back when, and I thought, well, what a nice tool for the next generation, but I'll never use it.
That's like, McLuhan's favorite joke. And I have to compliment you immensely because you're one of the rare people who are Joyceans who actually will say McLuhan's name. So it's so fun when but he said one of his favorite jokes is two caterpillars are on a branch and they see a butterfly fly by. And one caterpillar says to the other caterpillar, "You'll never get me up in one of those contraptions."
I never heard that. I love that. Love that. That's me. But but I speaking of McLuhan, there's a play called Gutenberg the Musical.
Oh, yeah, I know. I heard
I
about
know,
that.
so I immediately went to see it. And for a lot of it, I was laughing so hard.
Good.
It was very good.
What do you worry about when you go to bed at night?
Well, I worry about not being able to go to sleep.
Yeah.
So I usually listen to a book or something to take my mind. I I try to take my mind off, keep my mind busy when I
Yeah.
fall asleep because then I fall asleep very quickly. I
Good.
think once you start thinking, it's over.
Yeah. Hello. McLuhan learned from a poet that artists are the antenna of the race. They're broadcasting and detecting the hidden psychic effects of our inventions so we might be able to cope with what we don't like about our inventions. So, Eden, I asked you the question Marshall probed his whole career. Why do we ignore the hidden psychic effects of our inventions, even though the artists are broadcasting them to us?
Well, I guess the easy answer is fear.
Yeah.
Um, it's 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 hard to also I think that it's very hard to entertain a nuanced attitude toward anything, and I unfortunately seems like it's getting true worse and worse. That's what's wrong with our politics a lot. Like you can't see good and bad together in the same thing. It has to be
Mhm.
one or the other.
Yeah. Do artists have moral obligation?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah. There's no right or wrong answers, but that one you got right. No, I mean, everybody really wants to say, oh, they have a moral obligation. Everybody has a moral obligation. But I mean, that's sort of what artists are around for, to shake things up a little, to open our eyes. So it's hard, to.
It Well, I mean, I think all you have to do is look at the Soviet murals to know what happens when art has a political overlay, right? I mean, you know, you can't do that.
Yeah.
I mean, it amuses me to think that that's what Joyce did. I mean, with all of the things he went through with the banning and trials for obscenity, and he could have written a book that was less obscene, less treasonous, but he didn't. He wrote The Wake.
Yeah.
He didn't feel sorry for himself. He didn't monitor himself. He wrote The Wake.
Yeah. Are you more afraid of new ideas or more afraid of old ideas?
Ooh, that's a good question. Well, I'd like to say old, but I I think I think I have an initial negative reaction to new ideas. I think I am afraid. It takes me a second or third time to come back and say maybe it's okay.
Yeah.
But I try to root out if I find in myself like some old assumption, that's kind of nestled itself behind the armchairs of my brain, and I don't realize that I'm looking with those eyes. I don't like that. If I see that, I try to root that out.
Yeah, that's good. Charles Kettering said it great. He says, people are very open minded about new things as long as they're exactly like the old ones.
Excellent. Excellent.
My
Excellent.
next question you already answered in a way. I asked, can you conjure up your earliest memory ever? And you talked about that.
I did. That's it. Yeah.
And what was it? Do you mind telling us what was
Yeah.
the gift?
No, I'm happy to tell you. It's funny to think of. Now you have to realize that when I was, I guess, about 3, and we listened to the radio, and we listened to Gene Autry on the radio,
Yeah.
and he sang these cowboy songs, and I loved Gene Autry.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine what his politics would be now. But anyway, I I love Gene Autry, and my parents said they would get me a record. And what they did, they got me this album of, it was 78 records, so it was big, and it was an album of records by Gene Autry with his picture on the cover. I can still see it. It's yellow,
Yeah.
and he had his lariat and a horseshoe, and so it was so special. I mean, I thought I was going to get a record, and here it was like 6 records, in this beautiful cardboard container, and it was astonishing.
But then you said, I don't want it, but you meant to say, I didn't expect this.
I didn't expect such a wonderful present, but I didn't know that word.
And they laughed. Your parents knew you were.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't. I don't think they didn't take it away from me, although they might have joked about it. Really, give it back or something. But mainly I laughed. But it's funny because I knew the concept, but
Yeah.
the word.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah.
Is is memory more a curse or more a blessing?
Oh my. Oh my. I I'd have to say both.
Yeah,
I'd have
definitely.
to say both. But more, I think no. I think more it's a blessing. I mean, if I think about like he who forgets history is doomed to repeat it, right? So no, that I mean, that's what I know. I mean, that's what I have to show for all this time I've spent, you
Yeah.
know. So no, memory is good. I
Yeah,
take that back.
I agree. And so tell me someone within your immediate family, then outside your immediate family, who had an impact on you, kind of like a role model. And what specifically was that impact?
Well, I always say that I didn't have any role models because growing up, when I grew up, it was all none of the above, you know. I,
Yeah.
I don't want to be like any of these people, but I would say that I had one aunt when I think about it. My mother had two sisters and a brother, so this was my brother's wife, so she wasn't a blood relative. So she wasn't like them. She didn't have a loud voice. She didn't have, and she was very elegant and had a quiet voice. She wasn't from New York, so she didn't have the same accent, and she had beautiful clothes and she made beautiful things. So that she was a role model. You know, I was it was wonderful to see that there were women different from my relatives and my teachers who all seemed to be kind of the same.
Yeah. Beautiful. You really described it well. I got a good picture in that. Now, the same question outside your immediate family.
Well, this is a funny one, but if I think this is what always comes to mind is Dorothy Kilgallen.
And what did you get from her, you think?
Well, she was on television. She was very funny looking. You know, she talked kind of like this. She had this little funny mouth. She would talk like this. But she was a reporter. She was a reporter. She worked in newspapers and she reported on the news, and that's what I wanted to do.
Wow. It's good. Did your parents raise you a particular religion?
Not really. I knew that we were Jewish, you know, but and obviously we were Jewish. I mean, my father's whole family was killed. He was from Germany, but we had a Christmas tree when I was little. I mean, when I was little, I thought the difference between Christians and Jews is that the Christians had bigger Christmas trees. My friends, you know, had Christmas trees standing on the floor, whereas we had one that sat on the table.
Do you pray?
I not in a formal way. Yes, I do. I do. I do.
If God exists, what would you like God to say to you after you die?
I told you so.
I told you so.
This is an interesting question now because of what's happening. You know, I'm very taken up with the terrible things that are happening now.
Yeah.
I try. I mean, I have tried ever since he stopped being president. I tried to not listen to the news or pay any attention. I just put it in the hands of them. But
Yeah.
I am very so. You know, I've been to prayer services lately and things. So.
Yeah. Do evil people exist or does evil use people as a vehicle?
Oh, isn't that interesting way of looking at it? Because evil people certainly exist. Is there such a thing as like a force, an evil force, the devil? I think I more think that evil people exist. There's a I saw an incredible play lately, which is called "All the Devils Are Here," which is a taken from a line of Shakespeare, which is "Hell must be empty because all the devils are here."
Yeah.
And I was thinking that this week, that all the devils are here.
Yeah. Well, the hidden question really is, Eden, is how do you advise someone to deal with an enemy? And I'll set it up. Alan Watts says, if you acknowledge your enemy, you empower them. Coppola stole from the mob and the samurais. Keep your friends close and your enemies close. JFK said, forgive your enemy, but don't forget their name. And Fellini says, I need an enemy. So it's a lot of thoughts. The basic question is how do you advise someone to deal with an enemy? But first, how would you respond to Alan Watts? If you acknowledge your enemy, you empower them.
Well, I think that that's true. I think that that's true. There's another saying that somebody has joked about that. Always forgive your enemy. Nothing pisses them off more.
That's a good one.
So, I mean, I think it's true. If you meet them like this,
Yeah.
you're just making it stronger. But I sort of have enemies now when I never did before. So just a situation. And it was really shocking to think that there was someone who really hated me. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm such a nice person. I try so hard to get along. So I don't know. Mostly I try to not think. I mean, I think it's more important to focus on the positive. And
Yeah.
there's not, I think there's not much. I mean, that's what I. But I said if they feel that way, they feel that way. It's really their problem.
Yeah, I think it's funny because I think some people don't know how to express it. So they go, you're an asshole, and I like what they're trying to say is, I need you and I love you, but that's the only way I can say it by calling you a name or, treating you like an enemy. So I don't know if it's that way, but it's, I mean, uh, Ram Dass had a great one. He says, I'm having a real hard time loving George Bush, like love your enemies. It's like,
No, yeah. I mean, I certainly feel a lot of hatred for politicians, various people in politics, and who seem to have so much power that that there's not really much I can do about it.
yeah,
I'm definitely victimized by it. But that was why, like after 4 years of checking CNN on my phone 20 times a day and getting upset, I said, I'm never going to think about it again. I don't want to see it. I don't want to know about it, which doesn't really work either, but
yeah.
I don't know.
Well, we get it from secondhand smoke. Then other people tell us, and then they sometimes they go, "You don't know," and it's like, "Come on, man! I'm trying to fast from this bullshit."
Well, it's very funny because I post a lot on Facebook. And so, of course, I've been posting a lot ever since Saturday about Israel. And I don't know, at one point I just said, I can't stop crying.
Yeah,
Two people I know who are very bright women both said, what's wrong? What happened? Why? Am I missing something? It's like, duh. You know? So that was, on one hand, I said, well, I think that was my goal and I didn't achieve it. But on the other hand, sometimes
yeah.
it was surprising.
Well, it's funny because Nassim Taleb said games were created to give non-heroes the illusion of winning. In real life, we don't really know who wins or loses, but we can tell who a hero is. And then someone said, well, villains don't think they're bad. They want control. Heroes want freedom. And then Gregory Bateson says, when the criminal gets caught, does he go, whoa, my criminal skills weren't up to snuff that day? Or does he go, wow, I did something morally and socially wrong? So the basic question is, there's a lot of prompts there. You can go wherever you want, but the basic question is, does punishment work?
Well, you mean as a deterrent? I don't think so. But and I used to like work with prison and stuff like that. But it doesn't work as a deterrent, but it works to separate people from everyone else.
Yeah.
And I mean, it is, I shouldn't say that. Of course, it's somewhat of a deterrent, but I mean, I think it just makes people more careful when they break the law, probably. But there was I wish I could remember this, but somebody there was an actor that was being interviewed, and he was this guy that always played the villain.
Yeah.
And they said, how do you play someone like that? And he said, how do you play such bad guys? He said, they're not bad guys. They're just trying to get through their day.
Yeah.
So and and, and this play that I saw, all the devils are here, was about the evolution of the character of the villain through Shakespeare's corpus. I mean, it was really brilliant because
Yeah.
he kind of created the idea of a villain.
Yeah. You have the big picture view. It's good. And now on to James Joyce, who is the first projectionist in Dublin over 100 years ago. And he basically checked out. He said, this is stupid. Why should I go inside a building and see a movie of a tree when I can go outside and see a real tree? Years later, Faulkner said, sometimes the best fiction is more true than journalism. Why do we have to recreate things in order to get them? Why do we have to go to a theatrical play of people acting out life? Why don't we just live life?
Well, that is a fascinating thing to say. Wow, I love that. Art is an imitation of life, and then Oscar Wilde says life is an imitation of art.
Is that what? Wait, say that again. Oscar says what?
He said sometimes life is an imitation of art.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's Aristotle said art is an imitation of life, and he says life is an imitation of art. I mean, art cleans up life. I mean, art is neat, art is clean, art is organized, and life is messy.
Oh, that is heavy. You really brought on this because I've just added these two. So Mike Kelly, an artist, said, art is making your problems everyone else's problem.
I love that.
You like that?
It's so funny.
And then Fanny Howe, a poet, said, and this one I don't get, but I'm curious your reactions, Eden. The point of art is to show people that life is worth living by showing that it isn't.
Oh, that's very subtle. That's very good. Those are both very good. I like them.
Yeah.
Um, I think by showing that. Let's see. What do I think about that? How does that relate to the way I think about it? I mean, art makes your problem everybody else's because it finds you obviously use. I mean, even if you're writing science fiction about a planet outside the solar system, you're still using your experience and your life as
Yeah.
material, and you're finding what in your life is closer to the universal and closer to the meaning. I was stupid to say this, but like I hated high school. That was the 3 worst years of my life. Nothing's been worse than that, right? And that's what my book is about. I spent 20 years writing a book about it. So,
Wow, that's good. So you really tapped into something that
yeah.
you can feel that maybe there's a universality that other people felt that.
And the thing is, it's not like I made it nicer. It's not like I sugarcoated it and said no, it's beautiful. I was with, I didn't sugarcoat it at all. But I through that it was kind of funny, and um, it was a different way of looking at it, and it did turn, as it turned out. Why does it say I'm unplugged?
Maybe you hit a camera button. Maybe
How would
uh,
I?
make sure your camera's on. I can still hear you. Can you hear me?
No, I can hear you and I can see you, but I see this funny thing. It looks like
Yeah, the icon. Yeah, the icon took you.
yeah.
Your the server might have gone down a little. There's a couple ways we could do it. Go down to the bottom where it says stop camera and just hit it and then hit it back on. See what that does.
Just stop. Oh, here.
Hit the link again. Okay. Okay, hang in there. We'll get it fixed. Hi, why don't you try to exit out, close it out, and then re-enter? Okay. Hello? Hello? Hello.
All right, now I'm on my computer where I have no light. See, so now I'm in the dark a little bit, but it's better than not being on at all. Unless I look like.
That helps a little, but that sounds good too. You've sounded good the whole time, but there was a little interference. But if you want to turn a lamp on, otherwise we can just keep going.
Okay,
That's all right.
I'll get another light.
That does the trick. Very good.
Yeah, I like with my laptop. I can face the window, so I can.
Right.
Anyway.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you. This has really been fun, and we'll just carry on. So, Eden, tell me, sort of walk me through your callings in your life, your tipping points. What did you study in college, and then what pre to that even, where did you go, I want to become a lawyer, I want to study law, and then where did your tipping point to write fiction, since you're about to put out your first book, those two like major tipping points.
Well, I didn't want to become a lawyer. I wanted to become a reporter, and and then I thought maybe I would go into advertising. I always wanted to write, but then I wound up getting married and having a baby, so that kind of derailed things for a while. And and then I did that because I didn't become a lawyer until I was 40. I took my children and lived in a community, a Gurdjieff community, and grew plants and made crafts and also things I didn't really like doing much, but I thought they were good for me. And then I decided, and I homeschooled them. And then when they were graduating from 6th grade, I realized that I didn't have to do this anymore. And that's when I decided to become a lawyer. And I looked at it, I wasn't really sure what lawyers did actually, but because I'd kind of been living in the woods, but I thought, I had to get a job and learn a skill and support my kids. So that seemed like a good thing. And then as it turned out, I really liked it a lot.
That's beautiful. And so then the tipping point to be a fiction writer. You're saying you're inspiring to be a writer from the beginning. Like, I love reporter and advertising, amazing. But what was it growing up being a reader? Where did you go, "Oh, I can do that. I can be a writer"?
Well, I wrote things when I was little. I remember writing things. My mother was very encouraging that way, and so was my father to the extent that he paid any attention to me. But he, they were very encouraging. So I wrote like little stories. Oh, I won a citywide poetry contest in 6th grade. I don't usually think about that. So
So you wrote a poem and won a contest when you were young.
yeah, yeah. So I mean, I was always writing stuff. I was always writing stuff. And then, as I said, when I had 3 little children, and that was kind of an overwhelming task, especially once I was a single mother with 3 little children. And so I was in this community where we worked very hard. We did a lot of stuff, you know. I homeschooled them. I had a big garden. I did, I went to meetings. I cooked. I was an earth mother, and
So so that you sort of were nurturing your children, but at the same time, you were being creative in the homeschooling setting.
yes, yes. Well, what 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 I was able to see there was, instead of seeing my children as the impediment,
standing between me and what I was able to do in my life. They were my teachers. That was my teaching. And this was exactly what I needed to do in order to become what I wanted to be. So that was a really important shift that came through that community, through that teaching.
That is beautiful. I love that because that's what I'm just a student. I'm just, people like it's really good when you can realize it's again a reciprocal thing.
Right, right.
A screenwriting teacher told me great art is when you can clearly see the intention of the maker. Kubrick says the opposite. Great art is when you can clearly not see the intention of the maker. What role does intention play in your creative process writing your book?
Wow. Well, I do have an experience, which is rare, but my understanding of the creative process is there are times when I'm just, I guess you could say, you could call it being in the zone, or you can call it being aware in the sense that Gurdjieff uses it. But there's really a connection that I have with something in myself that I don't have access to all the time, you know. And out of that, I'm able to do something. Whether intent, with the word intention, I always think of, I took all these writing workshops, and they say, write outlines, or they don't say to do it, but some people write outlines, they write cards, index cards, they write, I never could do that. I never could do that. I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't have the end in mind. There are writers that say that I can't start until I know the end, and I think that's great, but that's not the way I do it. But that's not the way I live my life either. I mean, how could I ever imagine that this is where I'd be,
Yeah. It's like I worked for George Carlin for a while, and we got this flyer in the mail once, and it said, "I'm trying to get more control over my spontaneity." And you're just saying like go with the flow, spontaneous, but that it is funny because Duchamp said there's no art without an audience. How much do you think of your reader when you were writing your book?
Well, the thing is, the book is written in the first person, and the initial impulse actually was I wanted to tell my grandchildren what it was like to be their age when I was their age. And so that's a lot of, those are beginning chapters that, fell away a long time ago, but they were just first to them, but I think of my book as a conversation. And actually, I've now started to take this drama workshop, acting workshop, and I use parts of my book instead of using real literature. I use and it's given me a completely different relationship to it, to understand kind of a dramatic arc, and pulling this out, and I didn't think of that when I was doing it.
Yeah.
But now I say, well, no, we can leave out the description. I'm going to do it as a little play. You leave out the description. You just have the conversation and put together different parts so that it has a dramatic intention, a dramatic arc, and it is in there. But I didn't think about it.
Yeah, that's good, Eden. It's like the symbolist poets. Mallarmé said, Don't paint the thing itself, paint the effect it produces. You know, so it's interesting what kind of revelations you had going into an acting drama workshop when you were like, you said, I wasn't using real literature. It's like, no,
Right.
yours is real literature too. But I know what you meant by saying
Yeah.
that. But you know, McLuhan says everything we invent extends some humanness, like knife and fork extends our teeth, the shutter in a camera extends our eyelid, and maybe even non-tangible, like consciousness might be religion or philosophy might be an extension of consciousness. What does the writing utensil extend for you, whether it's a keyboard or a pen? What humanness does it extend?
Well, for me, it's my mouth, my conversation, the what I'm saying to you now, because as I say, that's what my book feels like. Now, it's not necessarily what the wake feels like exactly, but
Yeah.
it's it's what my is what my book feels like.
Well, that's funny you brought up the wake because I was just going to jump into that. Tell us your history with Joyce. Where did you start? What high school, college, assigned or on your own? And then how did you get to the wake? Is there any, like for me personally, I just went right to the wake. I didn't even read it. Maybe in college I read Portrait of an Artist a little,
Right.
but I couldn't get it. But what's your history with Joyce and how you got to the wake?
It's just in college we read Portrait, and it was just another book that I read in college. There was, and so, but somehow I remember my parents had a copy of Ulysses in their bookshelf, and I was always aware of it, even though I didn't read it. I there was, if I think about it, and I hate this sounding hokey, but I feel like there was always something familiar to me, or something that I knew about it, and I started going to Bloomsday all the time, and and thinking about it, although I didn't read it on my own, but I went to Bloomsday, and I had in my mind somehow that I wanted to read The Wake, but I wanted a class. I knew I needed a class or a group or something. And then when I, and then when I realized that I didn't have any obligations to anybody and I could do whatever I wanted, I went back to get a master's in English literature, which is what I always really wanted to do, but I didn't think I could support my children doing it. And and just suddenly I started. Now, when I went into it, I was looking Chaucer, Shakespeare, who, like all these things. But somehow I just kept honing in more and more on the Irish guys, and and so there was a course being offered in Ulysses, which I took, and it was so great. And the funny thing is, I said to him, "Do you ever teach a course in Finnegan's Wake?" He said, "No, no, no." And the next semester, he did. So at the same time, I was taking this course in Finnegan's Wake, and I somehow discovered, for reasons I don't know why, every time before that I had tried to do searches to find somebody talking about the wake. I never did, and suddenly I found it. Now, they were meeting for years. I don't know what it was, that came between me and finding this, but I found them both at the same time.
How
And
many years ago did you find the wake? You mean the New York Wake Group?
New York Wake Group. So that would have been like it's hard for me. It, it was during COVID, because I took the wake, because I had started when I started going to Hunter, I went to class, and then the wake was on Zoom. So it was during COVID, and of course the wake group is on Zoom.
Yeah.
now. So it would have been then, like 2019, 2020, something like that.
Yeah. So what do you think of Joyce, of his motive? What do you think his motive to write The Wake was?
Well, what I've said, because what my subject is, is looking at this the various. I mean, he's so legally oriented. He's so litigious. He was so litigious. His books are so full of human boundaries and cause and effect and limitations and 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 trials, outright trials and things. So, and it seemed like, every other lawyer is a Joyce scholar. When I started to write on this, I mean, I just found so many um, legal lawyers that write on Joyce. But so I I don't know what I've sort of formulated for myself, although I think it's um, when at some points during the trials of Ulysses, both in New York, in America, and I think elsewhere too, I've seen, people have tried to say, look, nobody understands this anyway, so why are you going to ban it, right? Now that didn't work. It never worked, but that is something that John Quinn said in New York, and it's something that I saw someone try, I think in Spain or something. But so he he went through this ordeal of being banned, which actually started with the Dubliners, because I have a letter from 1916 or 17, 16, I think, where he says, I've gone through being banned. I've spent 10 years now being banned. So now this is before Ulysses is published. This is the Dubliners.
Yeah.
And so, and then he's gone through this whole thing that he goes through with Ulysses, which as a lawyer I have to say is very frustrating because it's so absurd. But anyway, um, at that point, and he's been pirated, and he's been all of these things that go on, you know, when he starts to write The Wake. So he could write an angry book about how unfair things are. He could write a sad, feeling sorry for myself book. He could say, all right, from now on, like Nora said, write books that people read. Don't, he could take out the obscenity, he could leave out the treason, he could leave out those things and write a nice book, but he doesn't. He writes The Way, you know,
Yeah.
and it's just to me, it's like this unapologetic, this is what I'm going to write. It has treason, it has obscenity, it has everything that it has, heresy,
Yeah.
it has everything that you've ever thought I shouldn't write. And there it is.
Amazing, because it's like he doesn't hold back, because he said, I wanted to, I say, what is The Wake about? It's about everything that ever happened and ever will happen. So that includes a lot. So don't whitewash the world, don't sugarcoat it, but you can still have fun for all, a funeral, fun for all is a funeral.
Fun,
But
fun
this
Finnegan's
is
Wake.
yeah, this is fun at Finnegan's Wake. But Eden, this is a stupid question, but how much percentage do you think Joyce got The Wake, and how much percentage do you get The Wake?
That's an amazing question. Well, it's easy. How much do I get about,
Well,
know?
saying zero to 100%. What number would you say?
Well, now, given the fact that, I don't know, you can't see, there's a pile of books here and a pile of books here and some over there that are only that are only dealing with essentially with the way, well, Joyce in general, but toward my thesis. I mean, so
Right. No, I understand. There's a lot of great books on the wake, but I mean, you participate in the Great Wake group, and when it's at its pinnacle and we're reading the wake, it really feels like we're united as a community. Whether we're getting it doesn't matter. So it's how you interpret the word getting it. I mean, what do you're getting some buzz from that. How much percentage are you getting? 20, 60, 80?
of what am I getting that's of what I think is there, maybe 20-25% by now, because I feel like I've really studied and will continue.
Yeah.
But there's something, but it's 100% of what it takes me over. It's like,
That's what I'm after. You get it 100% of the experience. That's what McLuhan said. There's no such thing as a good or a bad movie. It's a good or bad viewing experience. Well, it's the same thing. Is the way good or bad? No, reading it out loud with a group is a great experience.
joyful. But in general, there's nothing that I like talking about more. Like I said,
Right.
I have to get back to working on my thesis, and people go, "Oh," I said, "No, I love it."
That's my lifeblood. So what do you think? What do you think Joyce got the wake? 20, 80, 40, 60, 100%. What do you think he got it?
Well, I tend to think, like somebody saying last night, that different authors have different amounts of control over their material.
Yeah.
Someone like F. Scott Fitzgerald, they said, it was just all over. He didn't know what was going on. And I thought to myself, although I didn't say it, I said, I feel like Joyce was completely in control of his material.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think any of it is incidental. I think he knew, as encyclopedic and extraordinary and huge. But I feel like he was in control.
Yeah.
Which is not because I also thought that, like, sometimes after we've spent a whole meeting on 3 words or something, and and somebody will say, Joyce would really be laughing now.
Well, it is. And I mean, I get some of the biggest Joyce scholars said, well, he gets about 80% or 90, or, they sometimes don't say 100%. And I understand the variation, because how much was he sort of just rolling the dice again? Well, I'll just put these words together and see what happens. And then, they resonate, so I'll leave them. But, going back to portrait, I'm curious Eden, your thoughts on these 3 words. He said, I will try to express myself in some mode of life or art as freely as I can and as wholly as I can, using my defense the only arms I allow myself to use: silence, exile, and cunning. What do you think those 3 words were meaning? Or what do they mean to you even? Silence, exile, and cunning.
Well, first I would say they're not the 3 words that I would that come to my mind when I read Joyce. I mean, the exile and the cunning, I guess, is more easy to see than the silence. But silence, I don't know. It makes me think of, that story about how, when he was writing, the way he would be writing the wake all night and laughing out loud. And
Yeah.
Nora said, either stop writing or stop laughing. because he kept waking her up. I don't know. I mean, I guess there's a silence somewhere inside you where all of this is born, you know.
Yeah. That's good. A silence inside each one of us. But do you think this exile was self-imposed, that he had to get away from Dublin to realize how important Dublin was? Or what's the deal with him in exile?
Well, he certainly chose to be in exile. I mean, he certainly chose to be in exile and stayed in exile. And I think, I mean, it would be easy to say there's a provinciality and smallness within Ireland itself and Dublin that he had to liberate himself from. He's you know, I mean, he's at a different, he's quite different from other Irish writers, the other famous Irish writers, you know, like Yeats and Wilde, who were Protestants, who were more upper class, you know, and he's, you know, he's striking in that he's Catholic, and he came from a family that kind of deteriorated during his lifetime. He didn't start out as that poor, but so I think that probably he needed to look at it from the outside looking in, but never freed himself, but didn't want to free himself. I mean, he didn't write about Paris or Zurich or Trieste. I mean, he only wrote about Ireland.
Yeah. And then how about cunning? What does that word mean to you? How does that word make you feel? What is cunning?
Well, I love it. I mean, I love it. I associate it with being a lawyer, you know, and you know, it's outsmarting. It's being clever then,
Yeah.
but not in a showy way. Cunning is more secretive. It's like, you know, you probably don't even realize what I'm doing.
That is good. More secretive. I love that because you know, you brought up that word laughing. So, you know, one person says when you're laughing, you're learning. What's the function of laughter?
I, you know, maybe laughter is the best thing that can happen to a person now that I'm thinking about it.
Yeah.
I don't know. When you're laughing is wonderful.
We,
Laughing is great. People who don't laugh and have no sense of humor, I mean, it's a real limitation. Certainly it's a limitation on how much time I want to spend with them. But I mean, I think it's a limitation yourself. If you can't laugh, I mean, that's what's one iota of what's so remarkable about just the title of the book, Finnegan's Wake.
yeah.
I
Well,
mean,
it's really funny because Gurdjieff, I always use this quote. Gurdjieff says laughter is the reconciliation of yes and no.
did he really?
Yeah, I love that. That's one quote I use all the time by Gurdjieff, which is, you know, it sort of delves into Steve Allen saying behind every joke there's a grievance.
Yeah, that's very good. Or it makes me think of, you know, black humor, when they define black humor, when, you know, as you know, looking into the grave and laughing, right?
Yeah,
Because it's not frivolous. That's what this Gutenberg play that I saw. I found myself laughing out loud, and I realized that it felt like a long time since I laughed like that, and it was just wonderful, you know.
isn't it? That when you can get lost in laughter is the pinnacle of life. But can you forget to die?
Can I forget to die? I try very hard. I think I try very hard.
Yeah. What do you think the motive of the cave artist was?
Oh gosh, isn't that amazing? I saw, I saw some of those caves in France,
Yeah.
and it's beyond my comprehension. It's kind of like trying to imagine Mozart writing all that stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just beyond your comprehension. They went deep, deep, deep into these pitch black cave, not knowing, not having any idea what was in there, not having any defense, making these pictures which they could never have seen all of it at once because all they had was a couple of torches. I mean, I don't know. It's easy, it's easy with that to say, well, there must have been people from another planet coming down, but I don't think they did. But I mean, it's astonishing. The mind of, that there are things. I mean, I guess the wake of all the books, the wake has some of that. It's like unimaginable that something this huge could be created.
Yeah. It's like McLuhan loves to say this quote: the Balinese have no word for art. They do everything as well as they can. So they're just doing, but I get all kinds of answers to that. Like, what was the motive of cave artists? Ritual. They're trying to, draw the picture of the deer so that it will come to them the next day, or they're trying to write a history that they caught the deer yesterday. And we don't know, their motive. And then is the motive different from why James Joyce wrote The Wake? Is it different from the cave artist? In the essence.
Yeah, well, yes, because think about it. That goes back to what you were saying before about language. I mean, compare what we can imagine the language that was available to those people who created that. What language was available? So what was their consciousness? I mean, to think that they, could they couldn't possibly, I don't think they could possibly formulate like history or future or I I don't I don't see how they could have done that. I mean, I don't know what they were thinking. And I don't know why they did it. I'm in awe of it. It's beyond me to comprehend these extraordinary things.
Yeah, Eden, it's like the New Yorker had an article recently about does the baby in the mother's womb have to have experience in order to dream? Like, once they get out of the womb, they start having experiences and then they have something for their dream. And, McLuhan said that Joyce was like saying, artists dream while they're awake. Like, everyone has these scenarios they create in the middle of the night, but artists also have these scenarios they dream awake. Have dreams played a role in your creative process, say in writing your novel?
Well, it's so funny. I started to say no, and yet there's a whole thing about dreams in it. She has dreams that are obviously Holocaust echoes. She has dreams and she doesn't know why, but she has dreams of being pushed into a a car comes into the station, but it's not like a subway car. It has no windows and there are lots of people and she's pushed in and she can't get out. And she has dreams like that. No, I never had a dream like that, as far as I remember. But I've done work from time to time on dreams and journaling, you know. So yeah, I mean, yeah. When I pay attention to them, I think it's a very rich source of information.
Very rich, yeah. Eden, what's more important, conviction or compromise? Good laugh.
I don't know. Ask my ex-husband. Um, um, you have to have both.
Yeah.
You can't compromise unless you have a conviction. I mean, it goes without saying that if I compromise, it's because I feel this and that, and I understand if you feel this and that, and we want to meet in the middle, and this is what I want harmony. I want this. So I mean, you can't keep censoring yourself. You have to let your thoughts go to the end and to the conclusion with
Yeah.
conviction.
You've accomplished a lot. How do you rate these three elements? Luck, skill, and ambition. What played the biggest role, second and third?
Well, I'd like to say skill is first, but I think ambition is third. That's odd, but it is because I think of ambition as actually planning. Like ambition would actually formulate a plan, which, as I've said before, I don't do that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I have certain ambitions. I don't want to be stupid. I don't want to be slovenly. I don't want to be, antisocial.
Yeah.
But I would say skill and luck, and then ambition.
A poet said that poetry is outing your inner dialogue. What language is your inner dialogue in?
Yeah, it's English. I always wanted to be something else. It's just the same.
Yeah.
It's just English.
A couple of my film heroes say ignore yourself. Jonas Mika said there's no self-expression. In the jazz pianist Cecil Taylor says, I'm just a vehicle and this stuff just comes through me. Is art making more self-expression or more you're a vehicle for whatever technologies, environments, and cultures are dominant?
Well, I think the best, I mean, my own limited experience, certain times when I have been able to really feel that I'm just a vehicle and something is coming through me, that to me is the highest in anything. I mean, that to me is the highest. I always tell a story like an experience I had with my son, and he called up one day and told me that he was going to leave college and go around travel with this friend of his who was a musician, you know. Now, obviously, there could hardly have been anything he could have said that I would have hated more than that, right? And, the impulse is to say, over my dead body, you're dropping out of college. You're not going around with that bum, blah, blah, blah. And something came through me. It wasn't me. It wasn't me because something came through me and said, the guy's a dreamer. He's never going to do it, you know, just, and I say, and I said, okay. And that's the last time I ever heard of it. Now, if I had said, over my dead body, you travel around with that bum, he would have left school just to wait tables or something, And so I always think of that experience because it was very similar to experiences I've had when I was drawing and something came through me. It was a higher knowledge than I had.
Beautiful. Well put in, and that you had the awareness to not reject it and go with the flow. Can art making be egoless?
Yeah, it is egoless. It is the creation is egoless, even though obviously it feeds you and it's your ego and you're proud and everything. But to me, I think the act of creation is egoless because your ego is so limited.
Beautiful. Is perception reality?
Well, Gurdjieff says no. Um, perception is incomplete reality, is partial reality.
Right.
I mean, I can see what, this is what comes in through my eyes, but it's a small part of what's there.
That's Lily Tomlin says, reality is just a collective hunch.
She's great.
So Lewis Carroll says, I believe as many as 6 impossible things before breakfast. Have you believed in any impossible things lately?
Well, lately. It's funny because what I was thinking, when I went to turn this on and to see how it worked and saw the name, I'm probably wrong about everything. I say that all the time. And I mean, I think that's a story of I could say that's a story of my life.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, and it's easy to say when I look back on when I was young and I was, marching and doing street theater, and it seems silly to say I truly thought that we could put an end to war,
Yeah.
that there would be no more war,
Yeah.
that that race would be irrelevant. The color
Yeah.
of someone's skin would mean the same thing as I have blue eyes, you have brown eyes, There would be nothing.
Yeah.
So there hasn't been 1 second that there hasn't been war,
Yeah.
and racial tension is at least as tense as it was then.
Yeah.
So I feel like I was probably wrong about everything, I mean, and so I think that now when I say these things and people say you're such a nihilist, you're so cynical, but I think I'm protecting myself from
Yeah.
believing things that will be wrong. It's if I say, no, it's really going to hell in a handbasket, I think I try to protect myself a lot from that because I was so wrong.
Well, yeah, and it's funny because that's actually the name my friend put on his channel, and then I sort of hijacked his channel, and he helps me. But I do love Fireside Theater's line, "Everything you know is wrong." And, the biggest rock group in the world, U2, were just in Vegas in this new Finnegan's Wake Sphere doing their show, and on the slide it said, "Everything you know is wrong." I was like, oh my God. But yeah, this is about flipping. How do you turn a wrongness into a rightness? And Moshe Feldenkrais works with healing and movement. He says it's literally possible to identify a weakness and incorporate it to become a strength rather than we're normally taught to overcome a weakness. So tell me a weakness you turned into a strength.
Well, the first thing that pops in my mind is I don't know, is that all of the time that I was trying to be a spiritual person, it felt like there was always this part of me that seemed to screw up everything I did. And then I got to law school and discovered what it was good for,
Yeah.
you know? So I think context a lot, it's like a jigsaw puzzle piece,
Yeah.
when suddenly you fit. So that would be weakness.
That's really good. It's a jigsaw puzzle. It's like jujitsu or judo in that you it's a push and pull, and how do you flip a rejection into a redirection? You know, you it's sort of like you push and pull. You don't fight it, you utilize it.
You utilize it,
Yeah,
or that's using their own energy to throw them over, using their own velocity to.
that's it.
Yeah, I don't
Then,
know that I can do that to them.
well, fill in the blank, and Anger can be a productive emotion when,
When it's energizing,
yeah.
when it energizes you to do something.
Then there's a saying that goes, you create what you resist. Bob Goldthwait, the comedian, morphed it into you are what you hate. In fact, James Joyce said, it's a curious thing how your mind is super saturated with the religion in which you say you disbelieve. And Louis Buñuel nailed it. He said, thank God I'm an atheist. So,
I love that.
yeah. So, how do you react to that? You create what you resist. I'm not saying you, Eden, but one creates what one resists. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that that's fundamentally correct. There's a Buddhist, there are Buddhist tales about these very ascetic Buddhists are walking around and an old woman is crying by the side of the road, and so one picks her up and carries her across the stream, and then they go on, and hours later the other one says, "How could you do that? How could you pick that woman up? You held her to your body, you touched her. How could you do that?" And he said, "I carried her across the river. You've carried her ever since."
Wow. That's heavy. So, Eden, how do you find peace of mind?
Well, I spent a lot of time with Joyce.
That's good. I like that. No one says they find peace of mind with Joyce. I love that.
I mean, I'm so stimulated, and but I watch a lot of British mysteries on
Cool.
television, and I read mystery books. I never liked them before. In the past few years, I've become really addicted to them. I'm not sure why. Um,
That's good.
and I spend time with my family.
Family's good. Family's what it's about. That's what I feel the wake, the New York wake group, like the other wake groups I'm in, it's like family,
Well, it is like
especially in New York, because the New York, they don't mind quibbling with each other.
no, it doesn't matter. And my community, the Gurdjieff community, that's really a family. You know,
Oh, that's good.
yeah, that's a family. But I just feel, given that any mother can really see a lot of mistakes that they make. I think that I'm very blessed and lucky that my kids, they, I always say, despite my worst efforts, they grew up okay, but they,
Good going. Hey, the kids don't come with instruction manuals, so
they sure didn't. But no, but they're good and they're my friends, and they're good to me, good to each other. That's 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 really a lot. I think if if they had more issues, that would be very hard for me to have peace of mind in
yeah.
general.
Well, here's 5 Alan Watts questions just off the top of your head in a couple words. 1, who started it all?
I have no idea.
2, are we going to make it?
I'm concerned about that. I don't know.
Yeah. 3, where do we put it?
Once my son and his friend were arguing in the back seat of the car. They're very little, and one said God is very big because He's everywhere, and the other one said God is very small because He's inside you.
That's good. 4th question from Alan Watts, who's cleaning it up?
Well, I thought I was, but I seem to have given up. It's up to sometimes you see these kids just demonstrating against gun laws and organizing against gun laws, and and my grandchildren are studying things and reading things and thinking. It's up to them. I mean, I think it's not me anymore.
It's good. Fifth one, is it serious?
Is it spurious?
Serious.
Serious. Well, yes, and it's very funny.
Yeah. That's Frank Zappa. He says, I'm very serious about being not serious.
Yeah, well, the first article, the first learned article I found on the wake was, it's meant to make you laugh, which of course is what Joyce said. But
Yep.
yeah,
If you were walking down the street today and you met yourself as a 12-year-old, what would you say to your 12-year-old self?
don't be so sad. It'll get better.
Oh, good.
It'll get better in ways you can't possibly imagine.
Which way should toilet paper come off the roll, over or under?
Oh, under, absolutely. I'm always.
If a publisher was to release your autobiography, off the top of your head, what would the title be?
Well, I can tell you the title that I had for my book, which does not the title anymore, but it was a line from a poem of mine that I'd written, and I thought it was a description of the 50s when wonder was white bread.
Oh, say it again.
When wonder was white bread.
Oh, that is a great title. When wonder was white bread. Okay, now they want to scent the glue in the binding of your book. What smell?
Baked bread.
That's it. If a statue was built in your honor, where would you want it displayed and what would it be made of?
God, my mind is raging over all this.
Good. I love it. Tell me.
That's amazing. Well, I guess you could put it in Central Park where they all those poets walk. They just
Yeah.
put some woman there. I mean, that would be an honor and a privilege, and I would be holding a book or two.
Beautiful. Okay, a couple more and we're out of here. This has been fun. Tell me something good you never had and you never want.
A Porsche.
That's a great answer. Thank you. The answer I get the most are fame, money, and heroin.
Well, if I really wanted heroin, I suppose I could get it. I worked with heroin addicts for a long time, but I never. I mean, everything makes me sick.
Yeah. Well, what's the cultural shift you see developing today that inspires you?
That inspires me. Gosh, I see so much that doesn't inspire me. A cultural shift. I'm so much more aware of. I mean, I feel like a crotchety old woman when I say this, but I'm so much more aware of this. What seems like a real dissing and disrespecting of merit and achievement and accomplishment and such a resurrection of ethnicity and ethnic tensions and I mean, I always felt like what I believed in was equality,
Yeah.
you know? And people are not equal, but they should but their opportunity should be equal, and they should have the opportunities to fulfill whatever they have. And I don't think that that's exactly what people think is so important anymore, and that makes me sad.
Yeah. Yep, it's important that we tolerate. In fact, a great Joyce scholar, I said, how did Joyce studying Joyce shape your behavior? And he said it made him more tolerant. And I was like, wow, that was an amazing thing because, not only do we want to be tolerant towards people, but we want to be accepting of our differences, and integrate our differences, not let them divide us. So, I mean, how has your delve into joy shaped your behavior?
Well, it's it's ju- I feel like I fulfilled sort of an ambition that was in the back of my mind for most of my adult life, but I was distracted by marriage and children and work and other things. I mean, it's really made me given me an opportunity to be a scholar, not all the time, but sometimes, and like really studying something just for studying it to look further and further into this extraordinary creation, and just marvel at it and see it in another way, another way, another way. I mean, it's just really like just it just thrills me.
It's really well put, and it's like a metaphor that we don't. It's back to that Balinese have no word for art. They do everything as well as they can. When we go into those wake meetings, we're all there present and free, and we're doing this marvel. And it's not like, oh, well, you're going to get a grade or you're going to get money, or it's not. You get it. You're learning for the sake of the community and sharing.
Just share it. Somebody said to me, "What are you going to do with a master's in English literature?" I said, "I have a law degree. I don't do anything with. Why should I do anything with it?"
Yeah,
No,
it's a great Frank Zappa line in the middle of one of his songs. He's mocking Zen, but he's telling a truth. He says, "Nothing is what I want."
yeah, he's amazing. Liza. He's
So
amazing.
what's a question that remains unresolved for you?
Well, am I ever going to finish my thesis? But that's such a short one. But what? How far can I go with this? Will I really be able to write something a little bit serious about Joyce?
Yeah.
So
Well,
hard.
yeah, don't give up. I would go with what Warhol says. Well, Zappa says, don't stop and keep going. And Warhol says, don't worry about what people think about your art. Just keep making it. I mean, it doesn't matter in the long run, Eden, what happens. It's that you're enjoying the delve into it. That is it. The journey is it. That's the important
Right.
thing.
No, no, this I mean the journey into him is like the
Yeah.
greatest, the greatest.
And Thornton Wilder, who was a great Joycean, he loved Finnegan's Wake. He said, art is confession. Art is the secret told. But art is not only the desire to tell one's secret, it's the desire to tell it and hide it at the same time. You've laid your cards on the table for over 90 minutes. I'm not insinuating you haven't already answered this. What's it really all about for you?
I I really like to achieve things. It's all about achieving something in my, not externally, because I never wanted fame. I don't think I ever wanted fame. It's achievement. It's accomplishment.
Yeah.
It's skill. and through that, I guess it's because it's a mystery until you go through something. It's a mystery till you go through it and see it. And once you've seen that, then, I mean, that's why in a lot of ways I was a jack of all trades. But, you know, it's like doing it until you really understand what it is, going past the door, peeking in the curtain.
That's the T.S. Eliot said that they had the experience but missed the meaning. You want to find that meaning, and well, that's what I get. But where did you get this sense of achieving and accomplishments? The way your parents raised you, or on your own?
Well, I don't know. As it's formulating it in my mind, I'm thinking about meetings with remarkable men.
Yes.
You know, and in one of those chapters, he says that his father would set him on a task, and then once he got good at it, he would take him away and put him on something else, and he realized he was teaching him how to learn,
Yeah.
not how to do anything, and that profoundly affected me, and I think, you know, it's like in the community. I worked in a bakery, you know, and I saw how it was a bagel turned out to be a bagel. Wow, how an English muffin got that funny shape. You know, it's like seeing it's the skill to go through to see something till you understand it.
Yeah. I love that. He taught him how to learn.
Right.
Yeah, beautiful. Um, what gives you the most optimism?
I guess my grandchildren.
Yeah. You know, children, youth, that's the answer I get the most. And you know, even the first question is, what's the best thing for a human being? Wilhelm Reich said the best thing for a human being is another human being. And the last question is, what gives you the most optimism? That's what they asked Groucho Marx at the end of his life. And he said, other people. So it's sure been fun spending this time with another person, especially because it was you, Eden. I really love you. Thank you so much.
This was
Truly.
so much fun. This was great, Jerry. Really great.
Well, I love you, and I love what the family of the New York Wake does. It's just such a close knit group, and I learned so much. I feel honored to just listen in, you know, and be with these amazing people,
Well,
and
it's
even though I'm going to hit the end broadcast button, I hope we can keep talking forever and ever.
Thank you. I hope to see you again very soon. This was wonderful.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.